right. Welcome. This is, day of which we review some work done in the Designly server. First video onto the channel, so it's gonna be ultra bare bones, but I've got to start somewhere. So let's go ahead and take a look at some work. This will be work that will be, that has been posted in the last week or so. So I will go ahead and pull that stuff up. We had a few submissions over the last week or so. There's a lot to review though, so we will try to keep things at a healthy pace. I suppose one of the first things that we'll be reviewing is distractions. Let's see if I can get this pulled up for us. So, Converse All-Star, elevate yourself. Oh, elevate yourself. Okay. That's a grammatical error, of course, that needs to be absolutely fixed. It does have a drop shadow. Get rid of that immediately. The shoe itself also has a slight drop shadow. It's not the worst thing in the world. If you're going to keep a drop shadow, don't be so intense with it. It's on a pretty white background, so just play around with that. The black text here also has a shadow. This outline has a shadow, so I think that this is part of some growing pains, okay? So throwing drop shadows onto everything shows that you're uncomfortable about the colors that you're using because you're worried that the text is not going to get seen. Obviously, that's not what you want to display, right? You want to show confidence. You want to show that you have the technical ability to complete the job. So tone down the shadows. I think the format of having these images here with the shoe itself is nice. It brings like a nice kind of slope going on here. The background is a little confusing with the kind of splotches. I would probably more so opt for a more simple background. I mean, other than that, that's kind of all I'm able to really say about it. Next, we have Outlaw, who's made a few, mock-ups, I suppose. I have two here that he posted. Oh, he has quite a few. Okay. Well, let's review all of them. I think they might just be color schemes. So, obviously, this is a screenshot of what he's working on. Good use of the gradient here in the background. Good use of the shadow to put around the character to give it a little bit more of a standout look. This mock-up, as far as I can tell, everything has a place. It fits within this square. Not quite sure what this blue bar is here to do other than to help establish that there's a shape going on here. And even then, it does exceed past the margins from what I can tell. Really, only thing I can say here is to tighten up those margins so that it fits with everything so we get that perfect rectangle. I think it's the same situation here. Same exact layout, different imagery. This is also a screenshot, pretty low res. Yeah, I mean, really, honestly, just adjusting this bar at the bottom to fit the margins is what I would suggest here. Not much after that. Distraction also created a kind of an ad. And as we can see, we are still getting those drop shadows on the text, despite having fantastic color choice. This may just be a habit then. The food here is fine. I would most likely feel like if there's other stock imagery that this particular company had, I would want to use those instead. These are laid out nicely. I suppose maybe the reason why I'm not liking it all that much is because of this delivery service thing here that says pizza. I am not quite sure why we would have that there. If anything, like obviously it's my favorite word. We want to display imagery that tells a story that by shopping online, clicking, you get it delivered to your home, right? How do we display this? A moped, obviously going fast with these stretch lines. And moving ourselves, let's see, I mean, yeah, this is definitely something you'd have to play around with. I think that people are more than likely using their phone to place mobile orders. Maybe that's what's kind of bugging me, is that it's using like a computer to place an online order when I'd probably say like 80 to 90% of people are using their phone. So using a phone might allow you to have a little bit more wiggle room to display that visual storytelling, that it's an app that you use to deliver food, such as this. Having this come out of the phone could be a good example of that, but otherwise, no. I keep seeing these drop shadows, man. You need to kind of shape up, because you're gonna maintain your skilled role until you break past this in more confidence. So, a new member, ADI, just to kind of show off where they started and where they're heading, and we'll get to that point in just a moment. But this was the first draft. Visually, it's fine. Gets the job done. I don't know the purpose of this spotty paper background, other than that it looks cool. And that's fine if you just want it to look cool. But when we get into the advertising space, we cannot afford to just put things willy-nilly in the backgrounds, even anywhere in the advertisement, to not do anything to elevate the product. I don't think this elevates the product. The color choice is fine. The shoe itself has a massive hard drop shadow for some reason. Not quite sure why that's there, but I'd also challenge to confirm if this is the original font for Nike. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. After a few people in my server have, within Designly, helped ADI kind of understand, we concluded that ADI, you're just not listening. You will not budge on this drop shadow, despite being on a light background. This color is fine, right? We're getting kind of this X Factor type of thing. I could do without the logo here. Follow your dreams. That's never been the messaging for Nike. And if it was, it's a while ago. Just do it is the messaging that's being displayed already. I expect a CTA to be here. Buy now, shop today, gift today. I'm just not getting that. It just kind of feels like a school project, to be honest. I hope if you're watching this ADI that you take that to heart and understand that maybe you need to watch a few more Photoshop tutorials. Not just in the tools, but also different image theories around color theory and photo composition. I think if you take the time to watch those types of tutorials, it's going to elevate your understanding of what you're actually able to do with the images that you're locating. Because to me, this just seems very uninspired. So, hope that it's helpful for you. Another one by Distraction. These guys went ham on everything. Best WordPress page builder for SEO, right? This is kind of like, it almost kind of reminds me of like a Facebook ad, to be honest. It's I don't see any shadows, so I guess that's a plus, right? Everything that he's posted up until this point has had shadows, so building a little bit more confidence. The context in the background, it's a desk, working, proper context, wonderful. I'd almost want there to also be a CTA here, right? Because if this is giving me like advertisement vibes, I almost expect there to be like a button that says learn how, learn more over here in the corner. So that, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at with that, at least. Not too much to say about it. Clint Licious, one of our expert designers, recently made I mean, this is a screenshot, obviously, not final product, but Clint is a expert in mock-ups, creating mock-ups, and designing for the mock-ups. Tons of clients are coming their way. But let's take a deeper dive into what I'm looking at here. So, nutrition label, I mean, you can't really do anything about that. That needs to look a certain way. Let's see. Enjoy hemp, sleep, 200 milligrams. It's gummies. I would challenge you on fitting the 200 milligram text here to fit within the margins of the sleep box. I think that's what's going to be. Just look a little bit better, just a little bit more cohesiveness. Given this was a screenshot in progress draft. Yeah, I mean, the graphic itself, created by Clint, this background illustrated, it's fantastic. Let's see. But that's something that Clint was working on. Another designer, a new designer, came in. Hans de Gans, right? Using just a small mock-up. It may have just been put on the image itself. It's not an actual like Photoshop mock-up. Kind of got swept under the rug. It looks like they did ask for tips. I don't really get it. It's a bird with holding an airplane. The art is fine, probably. This font that's very kind of like gamer, I don't think works. I think that it does work in terms of it being a header font, but not that it's kind of a gamer thing. So I would probably suggest changing this entirely. I'm getting into the spooky stuff as we are approaching Halloween. That's in basically a week. I know most of the Designly server is not in the US, but Halloween is a pretty fun holiday. Safeb has been working on a design for a shirt. Let's take a look here. Graphic brand designer. I mean, yeah, this is kind of, yeah, design that's kind of filling the background. I'm not really. I feel like this could have been executed a little bit better. It's almost there. It's like a slight, just more transparent in the background, just because I think that it does kind of impede on the actual, mock-up itself. The design of the shirt is wonderful. I like it personally. I would most likely wear this. No closure. I like that a lot. I don't know what the big ideas, great results up here in the right is for. I don't know who that's for. I don't think there's a point for having that. They also made a phone mock-up for it. Yeah, I mean, it just seems kind of like a overall thing here. I'm not one of those people that uses a phone case like that. I don't know where my phone is, but I don't use a phone case like that. I just don't. It looks fine though. I just think it looks better on the shirt. Laura, an artist that came in, I delved very deep into this particular piece because it's kind of right within my realm of photo composition, utilizing a human being and mixing a bunch of elements in. The tips I gave to Laura was that some of the flowers had green outlines on them, and that's usually just because of a feathering issue. The contrast of the woman is incredibly intense versus everything else, which is very not intense. So my suggestion were to kind of tone that down a little bit. It's pretty intense. Otherwise, the color choice on the flowers in the background is great. Looking at, I believe there was a final draft posted somewhere. I can't find it. But it did end up looking great. It just needed just a few more touches, because Laura did listen to me when I said that there's a slight bit of white pieces on the eyelash here that needed to be photoshopped out, and the contrast being too high, this hard overlay. Right, I use overlays as well to create this kind of doubled effect, but that can work against you if you're not careful, because when I'm looking at this piece, it kind of just goes up, and then it's a sharp angle up by her shoulder right here. So this, to keep that and bear that in mind for other designers that do use similar tools. Let's see. Oh, Laura did not know how to use clipping masks as well. So that, I sent Laura a tutorial on that, because the clipping masks are going to save your life for the level of control that you're going to have over your composition. ADI, delving a little bit deeper into the personal logo, still utilizing a thicker font. I mean, I think this looks great. I mean, the M is also the A, right? The D is also there. Mad. Looks wonderful. Kind of reminds me of my old school's logo. Mad Academy. And this is where I went and did stuff when I was in high school. But it kind of reminds me of that for some reason. I think that they honestly could utilize that logo for their academy. But good work. I would also, I don't know if it's a me thing. Just making sure that each gap is exactly the same space apart from each other. The D looks like it might be just literally just a few pixels closer to the A than the M is to the beginning parts of the structure of the A. Let's see. Raphael has been working on a few things as well. A complete rebrand. I went over this last night, just when I was testing the whole layouts and such. But overall, fine. Graphic and brand identity. I don't know why the word design is here. It doesn't pop out to me. It doesn't seem to line up with anything else either. Everything is always lined up right here. The D and the R, the I, B, and G are all lining up as well. But then design is just kind of floating there. Doesn't have that same connective tissue, I guess. I would suggest removing that. It doesn't look good. I understand putting your name here. I think you can get away with making it smaller, though, because I think it does take away from the rest of the messaging. The logo itself, Raphael posted a lot. Logo itself, it's fine. It's definitely CMYK inspired. But I would actually be worried if these don't work when printed. So just double check that. No complaints on the logo, the curves. It just looks wonderful. I guess I would only challenge you, Raphael. The curve that's about right here does not look like it's the same curve as what's up here. It almost looks like there's like a flatness right here at the top, whereas right here it feels like the anchor anchor handles are a little bit tight right here rather than a full roundness. Maybe that was intentional, so it didn't look like a complete circle, but currently that's what it's reminding me of. So he's also able to make a pattern out of the logo, which I think is unique. I think it brings a very it's kind of, it almost seems organic, like a pattern that you'd put on a quilt. I think that's a great thing. I keep that up, absolutely. Very happy with that. And the last thing that I'll be reviewing in terms of his new brand identity is this one here. Timeless design, make it simple, right? So, unlike the first one that we looked at, which had the branding connected like this, we don't have that here at the bottom at all. Instead, we get this really shitty tiny text with creativity, with passion, but trustworthy. I understand the color theory that was behind the verbiage used here. I don't think it works for the overall composition. This tiny text, I don't know anybody that's going to take the time to read that. They're going to read timeless design, make it simple, and then be done. Okay? It would look better if you deleted it and kept it consistent with how this is laid out, where everything is connected. And if you don't want to do that, I would challenge you to make it happen. Because this looks great. I don't want to see you get rid of it. But it still needs to translate into other words in different layouts. And that's just something that you're going to have to work out. So that's pretty much it for Raphael. I think he had some negative versions. Spoyi, fantastic logo. One of my favorites that were posted this week, just because not a lot of people dabble with the caricature aspect. I had a few critiques, and if Saibi is ever watching this particular video, this is your segment. I am a fan of the logo that's on the left. However, the A in each word is a different shape entirely, in different kerning. So it makes it for a little bit of a more difficult read. Try to keep the same letters consistent with each other, right? We can see that these L's are relatively similar, right? This M looks great, but this M down here does not, and it's a little inconsistent. Let's keep that in mind. The character itself, wonderful. The eye reminds me of kind of my own branding with the eyes. You have to be careful with that. Even if this is much smaller. If I can get this to work. If it's much smaller, right? How easy are you going to be able to see that eye? So that's just kind of a way to check yourself. This particular gap between the hat and the head of the dog is quite thick when, in comparison, we looked at the mouth shape. We look at the arm shadow, or I suppose it's kind of like the technique used to create 3D-ish imagery with a solid black object, and then, you know, the torso being cut off from the backhand. All of these are very thin, and this is very thick. I think that you could get away with not even having the hat and be fine, to be honest. If we're going to keep the hat, I would suggest making it smaller and making it similar distance between the head and, of course, the hat than the other lines that we're seeing on the character. Keep it consistent, but I do like this particular square. I think that it just has a little bit of a heavier impact and more foundation. So, good work. Okay. We now have one of our newer designers, Definitely Sober Cat. Definitely Sober Cat started with tracing juice boxes with a phone program, not even Illustrator. We've since gotten Sober Cat fixed up. They now have Photoshop and Illustrator, and it's experimenting with Illustrator. I can't be too harsh, just because Sober Cat is starting out, still getting familiar with the tools, still trying to understand how things work. So to put things in a better, kind of more helpful light for you, Sober Cat, I would ask you a few things. Why are these gradient circles here? Why are they green? Why is the background a deep purple? Why is this app icon with the Wi-Fi signal? Why does that have a gradient? The font is fine. Experiment with fonts. They're probably the scariest thing you'll work with as a beginner is the font. When it comes to usernames, if we are trying to emulate some type of sign-up list, they look like solid buttons at the moment. So to alleviate that, you would put grayed out text here, such as name here or username, password. People are accustomed to that grayed out text as a way to feel the need to fill in that text with their own information. So but right now they just look like buttons where text can't go. So I would challenge you on getting that done. One of our skill designers has uploaded a bunch of things for us today. Let's see. Okay. Catan, Arabia East, or I apologize. RBS. Not quite sure what company that is. Reminds me of an airline. I don't like this logo.
Oh wait, hold
Oh.
on. Don't talk yet. Hold on.
So this is just
There.
something that we
Hey,
need
there
to.
you change my drivers. Hey.
Oh, there we go.
How you
A
doing?
few more people joined today. I'm currently recording, and I realize I'm not sharing my screen on.
Tisk, tisk, tisk.
Share the screen. There we go.
Get it together,
Now
boss.
you can see what I'm doing. It didn't actually hear. It didn't make a sound when you guys joined. So that's why I didn't
Sometimes it'll
notice
do that
anything.
depending on your audio drivers. It actually won't pick it up. Or headphones.
Streamer mode is enabled. That might be the reason why. But
I'm not gonna lie, I kind of bought. I shook the chat up to kind of see if anybody would join the event.
this is being recorded, so I fully expect people to just watch the VOD on YouTube. So, but overall, this particular logo, I don't get it. I think it's actually kind of bad. The reason for that is because it seems like as though a R or a K was taken in Illustrator, outlines created, and you started fucking with the anchor points. Okay. I can tell here.
Is it possible I may be able to cut in?
This is round for some reason. It's bulbous out. Why? Why is that doing that? It doesn't create a cohesive experience here. It seems as though there's multiple key points here when it should just be a click, click, drag down to get it more smooth. I don't like this at all. It's same right here for some reason. I don't know why that is. I think that there's inexperience is showing here. This red part is thinner than the top part for some reason, and I don't like this logo very much. I apologize. This chimney is just kind of a block and a direct contrast to these curves and these sharp, pointy angles. So that's just something to consider when we're looking at a logo. It does not seem as though either very much time was spent on this or it's just inexperience. And I think Orochi wanted to chime in. I don't know if they can hear you, actually, but you can try.
Well, I was actually wanting to advise that instead of saying a logo is bad, but to revise our vocabulary to say, how is this logo functional? Because even in terms of design, it's always about the purpose. So we want to know, what is the purpose of this logo, and does it meet its goal? And
Right.
so I feel like if we were able to understand the brief of this logo, then we would be able to fairly critique it for the purpose. Because based on what I'm interpreting, it feels like a logo for a construction company, maybe repair, handyman, something that involves some type of physical labor.
Sure.
Because basically the way I see it is that the K in the C, like it kind of looks like a some pliers, you know, like pliers are getting ready to grab something. But again, I don't want to assume anything, because it would be really nice to know how this logo was being used and who is using it.
Right. I That's why I couldn't really speak to that. It just because like I don't know where this brief came from. I'm just speaking purely on the technical aspect of what I think that timeline went as. I got an airline vibe, and it might be just because like I generally associate airlines with like these very sharp curves. But I mean that kind of, if we're talking about a construction logo, an airline logo, business logo, color theory is going to play into all of those very differently, right? Red brings a level
Yeah.
of intensity, but also in the food industry, it brings a feeling of hunger. Blue is a sign of trustworthiness, I guess, depending on what industry you're in, but also a sense of freedom if it's associated with an airline, right? So
Mhm.
there's a lot of different angles here, a few unknowns that we just don't know. I think on the surface, I can really only speak to the technical ability used. Um, I think that it could serve whatever purpose better if there was more care taken to the anchor points on this particular shape here, though. I think if just an extra 15 to 20 minutes to really get these particular curves shaped up um, would lead to a better result, I think, personally. So, um, another logo that so I apologize, Sahai. I'm not quite sure how to say your name. Um, this logo is coming off better to me, right? It's on a package, which can be associated right then and there as a potentially jewelry. I'm getting a vibe of a lotus, right? A deconstructed lotus. The colors are of that of gold, platinum, more luxury-esque type of vibe. When I take a deeper look into if it functions around that jewelry, luxury jewelry aspect, given we don't have any other text to work with to really give that extra context into like something jewelers, whatever. I like this logo a lot more. I think it has a much heavier staple on wherever it's put, and I think that heaviness, especially when associated with a jewelry brand, is incredibly important for recognizability, even while smaller. I still think it holds wonderfully. I think, especially the white version here in the middle, in terms of size. I also could take the angle of it kind of look like a bug's pincers on its face, right? That's another angle I could take with it, or you could take to elevate it, I suppose, into different industries. To comment on the logo itself, that's not color or industry or size, if we take a deep look into the logo, we have these wonderful curves here, and I love those. I think, to be very nitty gritty, I think that there's just a slight,
A single point.
there's a single point here that in which it seems like it's a little bit more etched in.
Yeah.
That doesn't quite match up with the curvature that I would expect, right?
Yeah.
Especially since the middle object is much sharper with its angles. It really helps this point right here stand out harder. Again, and maybe another like 5 to 10 minutes spent on just making sure that these anchors are and points are perfect, is what I would suggest. These sharper points here, I don't have much to really say about them. I think that you have to be careful with shapes that thin out like that. Oops.
Yeah, I would have gone easier on it, just a little slightly.
Yeah, just I would too.
It's just bad
But
luck.
if you're going to use it, just make sure that every other point here is also matching up with the other elements of the logo. This is really sharp, right? This is very round. So it's this is very sharp. These are very even sharper, right? We want to have almost a level of consistency around
Yes.
how we're doing our curves and how we're doing our sharp edges. And if you're going to use a sharp edge that's cutting into a curve, it is generally for that purpose. By selecting all this entire logo, right, it'll expose all of the anchor points and the points if you press A, or if you press A and then do that in Illustrator. I oftentimes do that to experiment with how certain shapes receive being curved out a little bit. This shape is going to curve differently than this shape if you were to do that. So just bear in mind to play around with making sure that if you're going to go with a consistent roundness or consistent sharpness, that it's making sense for the whole composition as a whole. So another one that you uploaded, I am a bigger fan of this just because I'm a fan of this out of all the logos that you posted. Sahai.
No, gonna.
So let's take a look at it, okay? It's attached to probably a supplement or a protein powder, most likely a either creatine or some type of pre-workout for energy, right?
Yep.
That's my vibe for it. It's a shame that you didn't include the rest of the branding elements that you used for this, because I would love to see that flat, just so I could see how everything was put together. Just in terms of brand presentation, I just want to be able to see that as a designer. Because even up here, I can see that the horns are up here by themselves. And that on its own is a fantastic addition to elevate the brand. That just is not being seen here because it's just the logo mark that we're looking at. The logo mark itself. Love the shape. I'm glad that the eyes have more time spent on them. I think there's a more HD version. Hold on. This might be the HD version. Okay. The curves here.
Yeah, be careful of that. The looks like you have quite a bit of points that could have been smoothed out, but it's nice. Yeah. Still, either way.
Yeah. By eyeballing this, I can tell that there's 2 points right here. And 1 point has its anchor arms levels not fully even with the other side. I can tell by looking at it. This side is a little bit shorted versus this side, I think. So just keep that in mind. This is a good use of using sharp edges, right? We're coming up, and to create that separation, that cut away from the horns, which are curved. That's a good use of building upon the caricature here, that logo mark. I think similar issue here. You may have used this exact shape, either this one or this one, to cut this out. I'm still getting kind of like this lopsidedness vibe with these points here. So just double check that. That might just be my eyes. A lot of small elements in this. It's a skull. A skull with less than 4 prongs looks a little strange to me. So I'm glad that you used 4 prongs to represent the teeth here. I'm not the largest fan of the gradient. I would love to see this logo with just a flat color that isn't just white or black. Find that middle ground. maybe around this lighter area, right here in the middle. Use that color. I don't have a whole lot to say about this one. I think it's just overall just very solid.
Hello?
All right, your man wants to know if we picking Juke.
So.
Boys up.
Yeah.
Andy's gonna get mad at me if I don't pull this up, but graphic. It got on the starboard, so I have to review it. Yep, this is the ideal designer mentality, for sure.
Wait, I'm sorry. What are we looking at?
Andy posted this and got on the starboard with it, so I wanted to just show.
Oh Lord. Okay. Well, it definitely plays more into art than design.
This is another one of Clint Lish's. Clint did not actually do this design here, but the custom packaging was designed by Clint. I mean, fantastic stuff. I'm glad that Clint is finally toning back the shadows more. I think even more so, you could probably tone them down a little bit more, just because the light here isn't too intense. But that's really all I can say. But I'm not a package designer. This just looks wonderful to me. This is another... Oh, I'm sorry. I read that wrong. So Clint did all of this. Wonderful. I should have known by just the font usage by itself. I mean, this is why Clint has the expert role. I don't have a lot to say or comment on. I mean, the use of the cookie pattern here and the use of the palm pattern over here to create that separation of color. I mean, nothing is being outweighed here. Everything has a balance. And the background probably helps with that too, but yeah, that just looks great. This is the one where Clint did not use the did not design it, but designed the mock-up. Great restraint on the shadows. Really good flood lamp on this gray here. I'm glad that you separated that from the rest of the design, since the shadow is coming from the left side. I would watch out for that. Right, Clint's whole thing is always going to be tied to shadows and lighting, just because Clint is working with 3D objects. There's an intense shadow that's on the left side of this object, but there's also a direct drop shadow underneath. So that's just something that I would say, hey, look, like, just move this drop shadow more to the left. So rather than the light coming from above, it just doesn't make sense for this to have a shadow on it if it's directly above. Outlaw has been working on a design for a while, working on the Infinity designs. Let's see. This is what Outlaw's working on. Great use of the wireframing around the spacing on how the logo should be functioning. That's a really good double check for yourself to ensure that you're working within your parameters. It's supposed to represent like a modernized infinity symbol. And I honestly think this looks great. There's not the curvature that is here. Like, there's slight curvature here. There's slight curvature here. Right here. There's a lot of restraint being used here. I think where there might be inconsistencies is that maybe this curve is a tad too intense. Just a tad. Otherwise, it looks great. In some of the final things here, I mean, Sobercat is still playing around with how to use Illustrator, but mind you, we're not looking at what Sobercat was doing before, which was literally just doing a copycat of other package designs. He is experimenting with creating things from nothing now, which is a good hallmark for any aspiring designer, is to create something from nothing. So that's everything that was posted in the graphic design channel in the last week. We have a few people in here in the Discord voice chat. So yeah, Distraction, did you two have any work that you would want me to review at the moment, since you are in the chat?
You told me you're gonna see my portfolio.
Yes, let's go ahead and pull that up.
Where's portfolio?
Your portfolio, okay. Oh, and so hey, it's also posted. Okay, let's take a look. Okay. Start with magazine. Okay. Did you design this? Did you make this photo?
Nope. I took it from Pixels.
Okay. I like the front page. This text here gives me a feeling that there's more on the next page. These words up here are just kind of random. I would probably put something with a little bit more meaning there. Scrolling down, we open the page, and it's very empty. There's nothing permanent except change. Indefinite article. Yeah, I would actually put text here from an actual magazine. Just copy and paste it over, just because that's going to give you the most realistic approach. But this page overall seems very incredibly empty. This page also seems a little empty. Yeah, it's not, definitely does not catch my eye coming into here. However, as we start getting further and further into it, it seems like you finally identify with yourself what you want to do. We have a full page that's filled in. Hello. Hi, Rise. I'm just reviewing some Distractions portfolio at the moment. If you'd like me to review your portfolio, go ahead and post it in the main event chat here, or post it in the Your Portfolio channel underneath the project sharing area. And I'll review it live as I'm recording. All right. 2K17. This page fills in a lot better. The structure is a little bit confusing, Distraction. I think that you're lining things up nicely, and that's kind of what's helping me out here with this particular area. I think to have this box here go above the previously established margin, I would want to have that within the margin, just because it's going to set things up nicer for the eye and consistency across the design overall. This is probably the best page, the last page. Everything is within margin. We have the space filled in here. It is lorem ipsum, whatever, I understand. And then the limit, fantastic photo that's used here. I know that you didn't take the photo, but I like this photo a lot. And I think that it really kind of is a good final piece to put on the final page. But great. Social media banner. Okay. So, Distraction, were you here earlier when I was reviewing your stuff?
Yeah, you told me to like fix the elevate yourself text.
Okay, yes. So elevate yourself, that's been adjusted. Thank you so much. Here's my problem, Distraction. So when you put drop shadows on so many things, it shows that you're uncomfortable working with certain colors. And when it comes to black and white, there's a place for a shadow, but when we're black text on a white background, I don't think that you need to be putting a drop shadow on it. Okay,
Keep that in mind.
that's where I'm at for that. Hold on, it's wonderful. But this white outline it around the shoe, I think it would work for something else. I think the only reason why it works like 35% of the way is because of the outline of the Converse font text here. But outside of, like, if you were to remove this element of Converse here, it would ruin the shoe. And every element needs to be able to kind of sit by itself on its own in order to really have a solid design here, a solid foundation. This looks great. I like this. I would challenge you to lower this location to be lined up with the bottom of these squares here. And then that way you have a little bit less of a crunch between the venue text and the black wavy shape. 25th July. Honestly, I would make this a little bit smaller and then put quotation marks on it. But really good use of control with the colors here. Black is, this particular gray black is kind of the hero of this image overall. Oh, definitely. I just noticed this because it is black. His shoulders are in front of the circle object here.
Yes.
So
That-
I would put that behind.
Okay.
Now, when you do that, of course, the circle's going to go and cut his neck off. Right? So
Yes.
the way that you combat this is with multiple layers. I think one additional layer. And the
Clipping mask.
yes, a clipping mask. One layer is going to be above the circle here. This guy is going to be above the circle layer.
Yeah.
And then this shoulder is going to be underneath the circle layer. So you kind of have like a sandwich there. And then you would clipping mask out the
And
bits
what
from the
about
background.
purple circle?
What's up, ADI?
Purple circle.
The purple circle, I think it fits well. It fits within the margins of the text that's lower, much lower than it. In a very high contrast image, white, black, tiny use of yellow. These need to act as accent colors, not necessarily to distract, but to complement. And I think that the kind of grayness tone of this purple does not take away from the other elements, and that's incredibly important. So, really good job on that distraction. Love Johnny Depp. Can I ask you what this was made for?
I think it was made for like some banner or something. Wait, I think I
A banner for
named
the product?
yeah, like I just made it.
Okay. Something that you'll find when it comes to creating banner for an advertisement for a product is that sometimes less is more when it comes to text overlay talking
Oh,
about the
it
product.
was PVC. It was for PVC banner.
Okay.
Okay.
There's a lot of text here. Sauvage by Dior is a aromatic fougere fragrance for men. That's way too much text. You already have the name of the product up here. We have the product itself saying its name. We don't need it to have its name said a third time. So, is an aromatic. I would probably put something more like the aromatic fougere fragrance for men, and then cut the rest of the stuff out. The thing. I would also avoid italicizing text as much as possible.
Yeah, so the bottle don't look good.
Yeah. Overall, just the structure of this particular situation isn't. I would probably opt to actually just redo everything. I think it's not. Things are not in proper place. There's a lot more issues with it than just the text. Craigslist, new Craigslist personal alternatives. Craigslist is already not a very UI UX heavy website. It's not very pretty to look at. It's very just bare bones. Again, with the italicized font here, not that amazing. We're having a same type of pattern with kind of cutting in the middle rather than implementing within the image itself. We scroll down more and more. We start getting into sports stuff, the thing that I already commented on here. League of Legends Wild Rift, Scrim League 2.0. There is a drop shadow on the text again, even though the white is much more high contrast in the background and would stand out. I would move the registration, starts from 15th of October, deadline, blah, blah, blah. Move that to the middle. Make it smaller. Registration, the kerning text is not good. And it looks like a different font than what Scrim League was put at. So I would keep the fonts consistent entirely. This kerning needs help. The gap between both of these here can be adjusted manually to have that tighter. And I would want the stars from October 15th text to fit within the square range margins of what this button is showing, not bleeding past it. Moving that to the middle, putting this over maybe bottom right corner, much smaller, this should not have the same weight as the registration button at all. This should be an afterthought. This should be like, oh, and like, who is hosting this? Oh, okay, the smaller text over here says this. Okay, great. Because right now it's taking away from the images, the call to action. This here, first impression, I don't like this font at all. The reason why is because it comes off very gamey. Oops. Like video gamey. Football is very bold, very squarish fonts. So when we see, as an American, when I see fonts that are in these types of sports that have these very strange kind of sharp, interesting angles, that I kind of get confused. I think you can get away as well with not putting a glow on the outside of these lines here. I think they'll do fine on their own, being white. The text is also glowing. I would remove that too. Let's see. I've already commented on these. Overall, I think that you're on the right track. I think Distraction, there's just a few things that are just not at the same confidence level as other things. And it shows. Yeah, I implore you to continue to not second guess yourself, but when you're designing something, ask yourself if it's something that already works. Adding drop shadows on black text in front of a white background tells me you're not fully comfortable with text yet.
Yeah, I'm kind of confused with the like fonts plus text.
Yeah.
And spacing.
Sure. I don't want to go. It would take me an hour to go into kerning, different font types, where some fonts are used more than others, and what's better on the eye. That would take me another hour. So I'll send you some tutorials around kerning. That alone will really elevate your ability to understand how your text should be coming onto the page. So thank you for submitting your portfolio for review. I believe ADI, you also had the Flex logo you wanted me to review. Is that correct? Okay. Wonderful. Okay, so what is this used for? Okay. I reviewed the poster a little bit earlier, ADI, since I did go through the design channels and reviewed everything. So I'll just have to ask you to review the VOD posted to YouTube later, because I do go quite a bit in depth about that. In terms of the Flex logo, I don't know what it's used for. I'm instantly getting gamer vibes or sport vibes, kind of like an intensity to it because of the sharp angles and shapes. The spacing here is not consistent. So when I take a look at, hey Outlaw, when I take a look at the space right here, and I look at the space right here, they are not the same. And it creates this very kind of like bottlenecking that is not attractive. And the same issue happens with the L right here and the E and X right here in both areas. I think they create really interesting negative space shapes when they're close together like this. But legibility is incredibly important for putting a little bit more ease on the eyes. It's also a gradient, and I don't think that any logo should lead with a gradient. find a solid color that you're happy with, and leave a gradient to be a supporting color or set of colors rather than the main color. You'll find that when you're trying to implement gradients onto posters, like what we've seen with like this, for example, it will bleed in. It'll get too busy, right? There's a lot going on this, but it has a nice balance because the logo and the text here are not busy, and it creates a separation by it just simply existing along with these other elements around it. So that's kind of my 2 cents on the Flex logo for the gaming. I think you could find a better font as well. I really truly think you can. I did review your logo, Outlaw. I didn't have much to say, but the details that I did go over, Outlaw, were very quite minute. Just because this is a very simple logo, there's not much I can be scrutinizing other than the way that the certain angles and shapes kind of tie together. It literally was only a few sentences, so I'll just briefly go over it again. I like the shaping. I think that where I can scrutinize you the most is in which the ways that these curves are used, right? They're opposite of each other right here, which is fine, but I think they're almost a little bit too intense. So let's just keep that in mind. That's just my personal opinion. I think the execution is there. The idea is there. But I would take another look at how intense these curves are in relation to how jagged the shape already is, and ask yourself if you want these to be extremely curved or if you want them to be a little bit more subtle. So that's all I really had to say about that. Badgie, it's great to have you. I reviewed some of your stuff. Let's see. Oh, a new person just posted while we were live going over this stuff. Let's pull this up and tear it apart. Okay. Man, this VOD is going to be pretty long. Jose Designs. Rule number 1, with a logo that is on top of text, and it's a logo mark, keep the text within the same margins as the edges of the logo. Please. Keeps things nice and square and consistent. This kind of like flattens out like a pancake. It doesn't look good for logos. The space here is also tight. I think the ideation behind this whole thing kind of being like a maze, and it being a J, looks nice, but my first impressions was that this was a U. So that may just need to be like a spacing thing here, or just kind of a reevaluation of kind of priorities here, right? So that's kind of my thoughts there. Badgie didn't post too much today, but I went over some of your stuff that you did post. Feel free to review the VOD regarding that, because I did go quite a bit in depth about it. Highly encourage you. I'm looking for any other work that was submitted. Don't want to miss anything. Illustration wise, I mean, came in as one of our advanced illustrators. Fantastic artist. I can't say much of anything to this. It just looks fantastic. Great use of the brushes, great use of the shading, the contouring of the face, really elevating that. I think the only thing that I would probably say is, or ask, is probably why her throat right here is very defined, because usually you only see this when people are kind of lifting their jaw up or like lifting heavy weight. So that would be my thoughts there. Great work as always. Photography. This was the only image that was posted in photography this week. The messing around a bit with the grunge stuff. What song would this be a fitting thumbnail for? Well, I resonate with this a little bit more just because I used to be part of the punk rock scene quite a bit back when I was a kid, and this was kind of like the expected imagery surrounding the posters for advertising the stuff. So I don't have a particular song that I would suggest the peak, but you know, it's a great image, very good like incredible lifestyle photo. Definitely a story that's being told here. I think more images are going to be needed to kind of tell that, though. But overall, I mean, just great use, great composition. Black and white's already very difficult to work with, and I think that it just capturing the emotion, the moment here, in the moment, bright flash, and then it kind of fades out as you get closer to the person. I mean, it's just a great use of black and white overall. But been recording for about an hour and a half now. Were there any other last pieces of work that you'd like to have reviewed for those who are in the main event voice chat? And if not, forever speak your piece. Oh. Okay, I'll roast your portfolio. I'll go through it quickly because you do have a lot. Okay. Okay, so I definitely think that the branding that you did around this logo is the only thing that's saving it, Badgie. This logo, it just seems like it's kind of all over the place. I can't zoom in anymore. It's not. It doesn't feel cohesive. Got a sharp edge here, but it's like sharp here, then round. Yeah. One of your weakest entries, I think. This is the part of the This is probably one of your better pieces. Utilizing an existing art piece and then being able to elevate it with the surrounding branding, with this fantastic text. I mean, that's wonderful. I think the only thing I would probably change is I want to see the text, the sunflower text. That's the logo mark, correct? Like, it can be by itself without the caricature there? Because if that's the case, I want to see what this looks like when tied with these other elements here. But if that's not how it's designed to be, that's perfectly fine. If these two are intertwined with each other, let's keep it that way. Profile pictures. You already know how I feel about that one. Of course, your logo is the one that you put the most effort into, which is wonderful. Blick. I think there's a lot of experimenting going on there. That looks great. These look great as well. The K looks good. Poly, very good, kind of like building blocks type of vibe there. This is Bronzes Hangout, one of your weakest, I think, my opinion. Just because like everything surrounding it just seems like it's elevated so much more with the surrounding branding, and I just think that this is falling behind there. Brand presentation. So this is a D, JP, CPO. That's 2021. Okay, this one so far right here is your strongest one in your 2021 collection. Actually, this one looks really good too. Okay, there's no point going that far. I would actually, honestly though, I would remove your 2020 entries from your Behance, because that's, clients don't ever want to see where an artist was and where they are now. They only want to see where you are now. So this one looks good. Very kind of pixel action type of thing here. Obviously Battle Royale, like Fortnite, is getting tied in here. I'm a little confused about this little like extra bulbous thing here. Not necessarily something that I am too big of a fan of. I think that you could probably do without this giant bordering around the text, and then just adjust the text, and then it would be on its own. Yeah, this is probably one of my favorite ones that you've done. Two S's put together, circles above. Definitely, you know, I can see this associated with being put on, embroidered on clothes for a like non-profit health organization or something. Okay, that's kind of where I can see this being used. I don't think it can really go into anything other than the health industry. Maybe like pets and like adopting pets, but usually in the form of like a non-profit. That's kind of how I see this. I'm a little confused about this, to be completely frank. This sharp edge that just kind of becomes its own shape. If you take this dagger away, it just becomes a regular triangle. But I still don't think that even pulling this outward is enough to make it unique enough looking. So, and then of course this one, definitely much more gamer. I like it. I think if you were to build branding around this more so, we would see sharp edges, obviously the color blue, and a lot more fleshing out. I think that this would need to be given a lot more branding identity in order for it to work more. This one looks like a smelly diaper. It made a poo-poo in this one. Bro, it I instantly thought of a diaper when I saw this. I'm sorry. I'm a little confused by the shapes. I'm not quite sure what it's trying to be. They're supposed to be beans. Okay. I think perhaps we want to look at this with doing as little as possible. Coffee beans are some of the most recognizable, it's like one of the most recognizable shapes in the food industry, especially when it comes to logo marks. So when we branch outside of that, it gets confusing. I can understand that it's shaped like a heart. The shapes here just don't tie in together very well. It seems kind of bulbous here, bulbous over here. I don't get the outline over here. And even if I did, the spacing between here and over here, between the shapes, are not even as well. Sorry. Let's see. This one, I mean, I think it suffers from the same issues that I have with this JP one. It has shapes all over the place that don't blend well together. This is incredibly thick. It almost seems like it's gonna like fall and become lopsided because of how heavy it is compared to the P here. Yeah, I'm not. I think if you were to redo this today, it would come out better. So. This, yeah, some of the stuff that you did in 2021, I feel like still bled into this entry for 2022. So, get some new logo marks in here, man. Keep this one. Keep this one. Keep this one. The ones that I would suggest redoing, this one. And this, not that one, but maybe this one as well. And then axe the rest. Headers. This is probably your strong suit here. Yep. Wonderful. Fantastic stuff. This Coog. Coog Esports. I have a feeling that that's what their logo was and they gave that to you. I don't feel like you had enough say in that. Yeah, that's what I thought. Because your standards are higher than this. And they didn't want to pay you for a new logo. So. The, this looks fine. Only thing I would change, probably just move the socials just a tiny, maybe like 10 to 15 pixels further to the right, just to create a little bit more of a outline there. Love it. Love it. I hate her eyes, but you can't help that. You didn't draw that. This looks fantastic. Summer. Only change is that the quality within his sunglasses are not fully HD. Like it's kind of blurry right here for some reason. Honestly, a fix for that, it would take time, but if you're really pressed with the client, is creating a mesh with a completely new image reflection, and then just throwing in the blue outline or the blue coloring. So it's not technically the that way you're taking yourself out of there and you're adding a new reflection in the eyeglasses. Yeah, the mesh tool will help you with that. Pro player of 1 HP name. Yeah. I would be careful with the Nike logo here. Just be wary of branding and images that people have. They don't get in trouble. Peanut. This was a full branding job. Honestly, I think that the socials are a little bit uninspired because I think that it's not necessarily tied to the branding associated with the logo. I think you could have done like a little bit more jagged socials to match up with the Peanut logo mark as a whole. not talking about that. Not a fan of this. It's a gradient with an H. I don't know what Hunter is a cutie is. I don't know if it's a content creator. Axe this, axe that. Redo this one. And retouch this one. That's kind of my thoughts overall on your portfolio. Badgie, I so desperately want to give you a higher ranked role. I just can't do it yet. No, I can't give you expert role until you clean up your portfolio, redo logos that you've done in the past and really show that you've elevated them. Get rid of the old ones once you've done that. And yeah, we're not going to listen to that, but that's kind of where we are at. Sobercat, I've already reviewed your stuff. This is recorded and will be uploaded to the Designly YouTube channel for you to check out later. But we are getting quite far into everything, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it off here. Got basically 2 hours worth of footage reviewing everybody's work. Lots of stuff to do. A lot of attendees as well. Of people coming in, dropping in and out, so on and so forth. Over the course of the next couple of days, I will be giving people an extra set of tokens for participating this week, for posting work and coming into the voice chat today. But that's pretty much everything. Thank you so much for joining today. And everyone, I hope you have a fantastic weekend. And I'll see you in the server. Thank you so much.